magnificent morning, awesome afternoon, and exciting evening, wherever you are in the world. If it's in the morning for you, remember it's going to be magnificent. If it's in the evening, it's going to be exciting. And of course, awesome in the afternoon. In fact, we're talking about perseverance. And I listened to an Abraham Hicks talk this morning about it, where she said, or Abraham says, I always get that confused, that all we need to do is believe that we are who we are and what we are about. And if we do that and we trust ourselves, we can persevere a lot easily and with a lot easier and with a lot more joy. Having said that, I want to tell you, I have Kamran Rizvi here, who all you guys know. He's a pretty famous speaker in Pakistan. We have Mirza Ali here, who is known as an investor in New York. And of course, we have Jeanne here. And I'm going to let them take over so I can get the link, the YouTube link out for you guys to do what you want with it. And tell me that you are doing what you want, which will make me happy. Okay, Jeanne, please, please, please take over so I can get the YouTube link.
Okay. Well, today we're going to be discussing perseverance. And as I did on Tuesday, I want to do a little definition because one of the things I find interesting is when we're going to talk about something, we typically live it before we talk about it. And you can imagine the kind of things that all of us go through every day. And perseverance is basically having the determination to continue pursuing a goal or a course of action in spite of the difficulties. Or tenacious, dogged, tireless, diligent, or committed. It's really about not giving up, having a vision and a goal and really pursuing it. So today I wanted to start the quotes with Confucius, when he wrote, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." It's the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step kind of thing. This is a perspective that we often forget when we're in the midst of whatever it is. And Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the great poet, wrote, "Perseverance is a great element of success. If you only knock long enough and loud enough at the gate, you are sure to wake up somebody." So kind of says make the noise you need to make, which is opposite what we started out growing up when we were told things like children are to be seen and not heard. So remember, if you only knock long enough and loud enough at the gate, you are sure to wake somebody up. And Julie Andrews' take on a very famous Japanese proverb, her take is, perseverance is falling 19 times and succeeding the 20th. In other words, you never know. You just keep trying. You just keep trying. Kamran, I saw you sit up with attention.
No, I'm busy posting the link.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
But at the same time, what is your take on perseverance?
Well, I mean, okay, so I'm almost done with this. So there we go. Right. I'm here now. I've done my homework, Carla, Jeanne, so you should be quite happy about that. I persevered despite the challenge and the risk of having to be, blasted by Carla. I must say that on this particular show, we have a very good example in Carla herself. I've known her now for over a year, almost 2 years, and she has, through thick and thin, continued to make people laugh. And at the same time, she has been teaching people to overcome their fears by speaking English and improving their scope and potential in a way that they can connect with the world itself. And she's done that very successfully. She's been running with
being balanced, business, bonding, your bank accounts, your inner peace, your happiness, right? Yet, in this day and age, with information superhighway, we all know the steps to do, right? We all know how to lose weight, how to get back in the perfect shape, how to have be a high performer, high achiever, high producer, super achiever, heavy hitter in a business and marketplace. We have a relationship that on fire, creating legacy between you and your kids, and then having utmost fitness to be in the best shape. Yet we are not able to do. Going back to, I'm going to piggyback the point that Mr. Kamran has brought so wonderfully, that you're logically there. We are logically aligned. But what is the missing ingredient in this whole equation is you are not emotionally aligned. So once you are aligned logically and emotionally, then there's a third type of alignment that people have to do in order to persevere, which is physical alignment. You have to take fast, massive, offensive, resourceful, committed, imperfect, inspired, decisive action, measurable action, imperfect action to get to the results that you want. And there's a third level, which she was talking about. Like once you are spiritually aligned, that is the fourth level. Then you're aligned with a vision and mission that is larger than you, that is bigger than you. Then you're living to your true calling. Then you are fearless, you're limitless, you're
goes with the saying, don't let perfection stand in the way of progress.
Right.
And what you're talking about in very basic terms is making perseverance part of our muscle memory.
Absolutely.
You know, the reason that we can ride a bike today versus when we were 4 or 5 years old is we practiced. And then we told our parents we had to practice more so we could get on the bike and ride away for a long time. And at least in my childhood, my mother would say, get out of the house and play and don't come back till the street lights come on, which we can't do anymore. But, we practiced a lot of bike riding in those days. I remember in my rebellious teen years, I would get on my bike and ride, 5 or 6 miles out of town to a friend's house so I could go horseback riding, things my mother did not want to know about. But as long as I was out of the house playing, she was okay. Muscle memory, comes with play, comes with practice, comes with continually doing the thing you're trying to learn. And that's part of getting that alignment. And I like how you talked about, logically, emotionally, physically, and spiritually getting aligned. That's something that you can, as a practice, you can visualize in your meditations, which helps. It's kind of like seeing everything coming together. And then you can take a breath and say something like, no matter what the adventure, I'm moving forward.
Yeah. One sentence that I'm going to share over here that, whatever mind can visualize, it can materialize. Whatever mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That unseen actually controls the seen. So metaphysical in your brain converts stuff into physical, and esoteric converts stuff into exoteric. My granny used to say that in Urdu.
As well, because there are areas, as I mentioned, that I do not persevere in. They may be very important for others, but not necessarily for me. So it is a problem. Now, the question is, what's holding me back? Now, that's an important question. If I can identify what is holding me back in doing X, Y, or Z, just by naming that will get me on the path to perseverance as well. Because unless I can name that, I will be forever lost, confused, and in an abstract state of mind. So clarity is key as well. Self-discovery, clarity, focus facilitates this ability to persevere. And as Mirza said, be consistent and practice on a very, very regular basis. And of course, there is something called fear of failure. And fear often comes in the way at times. And Jeanne, you rightly said that perfection comes in the way of progress. I mean, if we are trying to get everything right and perfect, then we will possibly start panting very soon before the journey has even begun. But satisficing behavior as opposed to a perfect desire for perfection would be far better. At least it gets us moving, we get feedback, we learn as we go along, we learn from our mistakes. And in this context, self-awareness and knowing what's holding us back would be the key that I would like to highlight at this point. And I'd like some reflections from Mirza, from you, from Carla.
Okay. I think that knowing or recognizing and being able to name that obstacle is important. But I think that sometimes that stands in so much in the way that we can't even name it. And, you know, it's the idea that somebody thinks, oh, I'm afraid of something is difficult for me to see, because we tend to let our ego get in the way. And, you know, I am not going to admit to anybody that I am afraid. This is just not, you know, I am a strong person. I'm gonna show I can do this. And that in itself gets in the way. When we cannot allow ourselves to be vulnerable for a second, that itself is an obstacle. And I don't know about you guys, but there are times where I find myself in that mindset where, I'm sorry, you want me to do what? No. You know, try again. And so you stop progress by just saying no, because you don't understand or something. And I remember with great trepidation when I finally stood up for myself in a work situation where somebody wanted me to do something. And I finally said, now I was doing public relations, working with the media. And I finally said to this person, this is my reputation on the line. This is about me. And you are not going to ruin my reputation because of your abject stupidity. And this was a vice president. And I was like shaking. And he looked at me and he goes, what? And I was like, what you want me to do breaks every rule in how you do this. The whole industry will look and laugh, but I will be happy to say this was his decision. So you decide, do you want that? And he kind of backed down. But inside, I was a bowl of jelly because I had never stood up like that before. But I knew, talk about alignment, Mirza, I knew in the deepest part of my core that what he wanted me to do was not right. You know, and I finished off the discussion with saying, more than half of my job is protecting you and the company. So let me do my job. You know, and I remember walking out, and literally when I was by myself for the first time, I started shaking, just my whole body shaking, because I had so much fear and adrenaline pumping that I thought that I was going to lose it. But what that showed me was that alignment really causes a level of strength that I didn't even know I had. And that's where perseverance and consistency really comes in. When you reach something that you didn't think you could do, and you do it. Hey, Carla, what do you think?
Well, with everything I have gone through in the past 3 weeks and focusing just on getting things taken care of, I've realized that perseverance. There were times I really just wanted to give up. I wanted to give up the show. I wanted to give up everything. And something told me, no, don't, keep on going. And maybe your interviews won't get done, but at least get the show done, and then worry about the insurance and all that craziness when the shows are done. And it's been very interesting. And with that, and I'm doing my best to keep it within the 2 minutes. With that, what I found was it made me a lot stronger. I went to a board meeting with my condo association, and the condo association was there and the building management was there. And I was more angry at the building management than the condo association because they really didn't know what they were doing. They were just listening to some people say, this is how it needs to be. And I said, you know what? Look at my situation. This started back in October and you're just getting to it. I have sent you emails asking you for information. You haven't responded. And you say I'm not being ignored. And I'm saying this to the person in charge of the company. And I could just see him looking at me, no smile. And the building site manager was looking. I don't believe that I said what I said to this woman. I could just feel those vibes. And I thought, it all came because I persevered and I did not want them to win the case. And it's still going on, but at least I did what I had to do. That was longer than 2 minutes, so guys, anyone can chime in now.
Yeah. May I just make a contribution about perseverance? Because, I started by saying that we need to be in love with what we are doing. We need to have a goal which is truly ours. What I find is that we are living in a society that is overloaded with information. I mean, the time of Socrates, there were no there was no internet, no electricity, no devices, nothing. And as a result, one had to dig out and reflect and search for information and then knowledge and then convert that knowledge into wisdom. Today, we are drowning in information. And what I find is that the key skill right now is how to filter out the nonsense in order to stick to what one truly wants, and being true to oneself, listening to your inner voice, and setting a direction and a goal for yourself, which is truly yours, something you care about, as opposed to keeping up with the Joneses, this great culture that we are in. And if you're not getting an A, you are on a downward spiral. If you are under stress, under pressure, having to do things, keeping up, in a rat race, whether you win or lose, you remain a rat. So perseverance calls into question deep reflection and honesty with one's own self, and not to get into the tyranny of comparison, to actually respect yourself enough to say that, look, this is what I want to do. This is what I have found my purpose to be. And I will let my voice be known, and I will express the beauty that I represent to this planet. And that is a high degree of evolution and growth. And I would think that perseverance at the root has to commence from honest self-reflection and being comfortable under your skin, loving yourself, caring for yourself, and saying to yourself that, all right, so I'm different, and that is what makes me who I am. And I'm unique, and I need to find out what makes me unique. Is it my voice? Is it my movement? Is it my writing? Is it my ideas? I mean, what is it? And then to leverage that and to move on in a direction of one's choosing, respecting the fact that in this kaleidoscope of directions and what people are doing, greatness is something that comes from doing what you want to do instead of having things. So my 2 bits for now.
One of the things that I've learned over the years, Kamran, is it's kind of a strategy that I learned in business, is to look beyond what's happening in front of me. And when I'm talking to a group, I usually say, let's go, right now in this, I did a lot of crisis counseling, how to communicate during crises. And I'd say, right now we're in the middle of this brouhaha, this mess. Let's go up to 5,000 feet. And what is it we want to accomplish? So that we could see kind of a vision and a goal, and then go, how do we get there from here? And sometimes it's, well, you might have to admit to the crisis, and it'll be a 1-day story or maybe a 2-day story. And sometimes you have to say, look, this has been a long-term thing. Here's how it fits in the overall timeline. There was a time where we actually, I counseled a client, and it's like, let's just tell them we're going to be laying off how many people, it's going to take 9 months. So that was a bad news story, because people were affected, but it was a bad news story for that particular week. And then later on, as the layoffs happened, and I kept getting phone calls from the local paper, and I'd say, remember back in, XYZ, when we told you that? She goes, yeah. I go, this is part of that. And she goes, oh, so it's not really a story. So it was by looking out beyond that current brouhaha, we were able to put some perspective. And what that does is, there's the phrase, you can't see the forest for the trees. Yeah. When you're in the midst of the crisis, no matter what it is, Carla's living situation with the condo, or whatever, it could be anything. Me dealing with, how do I get my grandkids from point A to point B because they don't have a car big enough. Once you get out of that emotional reaction and you look, what do I need to do? Then it's easier to move forward and make progress. So I like to get people to look above it, go up higher. And sometimes I make them go to 35,000 feet, and I remind them, when you're at 35,000 feet, you can see patches of land, but you can't see people. You can't see detail. So let's get out of the detail, and let's go way high and figure out what we want to do. And that helps me persevere when I can look up at the higher levels.
Yes, and Jeanne, isn't this really being tactical and strategic thinking, long-range thinking? And often we get either too caught up in operational and tactical things, and we lose sight of the big picture. Yeah.
It goes back to what Einstein says, that a mind cannot solve the problem at the same level of thinking that has created the problem, right?
That's
so
a good
once you're within the problem, it's very hard for you to see the situation from the bird's eye view. So we are from tech fraternity, and this is something that critical thinking that we apply in every aspect of our life, right? Problems are the gifts and challenges are the gold mine. That's the mindset we have, because your mind is a garden and you have to constantly, repeatedly take the weed out. So we always like, this entire world is a canvas and your mind is a paintbrush. What kind of life are you projecting for yourself? But once you're in the problem, it's very hard for you to look through the problem. You got to come out of that. You got to see the situation from a bird's eye view. It goes back to first principle thinking on the grassroots level. And then you have a zoom in and zoom out thinking and critical thinking from every 6-dimensional angle. Then you're able to observe. You're the observer. You're the overseer. You're the permitter. Because the problem is not the problem. Our response to the problem is always the problem. And when we change the way we look, at the things we look at, they change. And we are able
I want you to repeat that. The problem is not the problem. It's how we react to the problem that is the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Either we need to make a meme of that.
Either we react or either we respond, right? Reaction is thoughtless and response is thoughtful, right? It's calculated towards the desired outcome that we want out of any given situation, because event and situation and past and experience and scenario have no meaning, have no label, have no flavor. They will be colored and meant by the meaning or label or meanings that we will give to that event, right? And that's how, you rise above. When you get elevated, then it's very easy for you to see the situation from point A to point B. And, and that's you, then where you are able to push past through the mental and emotional construct. And that's where you are like,
You just summarized the whole theme of the book from Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, right there. We assign the emotional response. And one of the things that makes me think of, and Carla, I think, learned this quite well through this adventure, is she shared some of the issues that she was going through with not just me, with other friends, and each of us gave her different perspectives. And I think I hope that helped. But one of the things that I've learned over time is
it did.
it's a female male kind of energy, but men like to go straight to the solution. Oh, you got a problem with your condo? Let's just figure this out. I'll get you a plumber. Yeah, and that's not really what the issue is. And women do things to draw out the story. And I know I say it with great love because my dad, the colonel, would go, get to the bottom line, but women actually process the story as they're telling it. And part of that processing helps them get out of the weeds. And so part of perseverance is learning to listen and letting somebody talk themselves into the solution. And it's one of those magical moments when, I think, Cameron, you were talking about all the information that we get, we have information overload. And about 10 years ago, there was a study that showed we get 37 gigabytes of information thrown at us every day. And to put that into context, I did some of my own little magical research, and that's about 100,000 words or a Stephen King novel and 7 hours of video. So, when I'm talking about doing communications and such with people, I go, think about that. A Stephen King novel and 7 hours of video every day. And that's not working with school or what the kids need or any of that stuff. So learning to listen to each other is critical to helping us all get through and persevere.
And that's one thing I talk about often on the English show. People come, they want to speak. People come here and they want to speak, and they speak and speak and speak. But we do not always listen to what the speaker is saying. And times we may not understand what the speaker is saying, whether it's on the English show or on MindPlore or even in an interview. And until we can say, hey, I did not understand you, then there's no conversation. It's just people talking at each other. And that talking needs to stop and use our ears. There's some reason why we were created with 2 ears and 1 mouth. We let the mouth do more of the talking, more of the work, but we don't use our ears. And that includes me with as many times I say this. Kamran,
yes,
you're
yes.
sort of laughing at it.
Thank you, Carla. I mean, taking a cue from Jeanne and her emphasis on listening, I feel that listening requires a hell of a lot of patience. And if we are not patient, listening goes to the pots. And patience, again, different people have different limits. And I remember coming to the office one day, almost 10 years ago, and my friend was sitting with his head down and frustrated. So I asked him, what's the problem? And his first response was, there's a limit to everything. So I said, yeah, of course there's a limit to everything. What happened? And then he briefly described the frustration, to which I then asked him, by the way, that limit you were referring to, who set that limit? So he paused for a second and he said, well, I must have. I said, well, what if you raise the bar a bit? And you'll be surprised. His threshold, when it increased, he was able to absorb more. And again, subconsciously, he was having a very low level of acceptance. He had severe standards, but he did not allow people to grow, because sometimes we overestimate people. Sometimes we have a tendency of, if I can do it, why can't he? I mean, it's so clear to me, is he blind or what? So I have a feeling that we need to recognize the diversity, cultural diversity, and indeed gender diversity, as you gave the example of how women process and resolve their issues as they speak. So I think here there's a need for patience and diversity in order for us to become more resilient or persevering. Mirza.
I totally echo and agree with you. It's basically, I'm going to go back to the point that you were saying earlier in the earlier conversation that once you have self-inquiry, once you have self-discovery, once you have self-journey, once you have self-awareness, when you start living on the transcendence level, then you are able to have more grasp on the situation, and you can turn the table around and turn any given situation scenario in your desired outcome. Just like you had her take a look at the situation from a different angle. It goes back to you and I, we are playing chess and in between there's a 6, right? And I'm arguing with you, sir, it's a 6. And you're saying, no, it's 9, right? And then when I come from your angle and perspective and frame of reference, I was like, oh yeah, that's 9, right? And I go, sorry, can you take a look from my angle? And you're like 6. Now we have a commonality, right? It's all about like perception of situation, perception of reality. It's how we see reality, right? Goes back to the story. I'm going to quickly reference that they were like blind men and elephant, right? They were blind, and one person is like, elephant is a wall. Another was like, no, it's a spear. No, it's a rope, right? We all are vibrating on the frequency based on the frame of reference and how we see the situation. And again, goes back to like when you change the way you look at the things that you look at, they change. Now you have a different dimension. And goes is like, once you know where you are in life and you have utmost clarity, goes back to your point. And there's a point B that we are going to go. Now it's very easy for you to transition. And with the persistency and consistency, which is a currency, and with the perseverance, overcoming and becoming, like cocoon to butterfly. At every level, I always say there's a different devil, and there's no devil outside. It's us, you competing against yourself to be better today than you were yesterday.
I love that story about the elephant, and I used it in my ebook that I wrote because I just love the idea of bringing in perception into how you see things, and it fits well when I'm talking about media training. I tell people, I carry along with me my own personal perception machine. Do you want to see it? And then, of course, they'll say yes. And then I just hold up my hand. And I say, look, you see the palm. So you're going to see the lines. If you're a palm reader, you're going to tell me my future. I see the back of my hand. And I can criticize, is it dry, or, do I have wrinkles, or whatever it is, or your nails look really nice. But then you flip it around and you're going to see what I saw, and I'm going to see what you saw. And then we're going to see, oh, it's the same hand, but we see it in different perspectives. And the ones off to the side go, actually, I just see the side of your hand. And I go, yeah, and that's a very interesting, very specific perception. So I call it the personal perception machine. And when you think about it, it kind of goes along with the story of the rose-colored glasses. I don't know if you know that one, but in a nutshell, that's a person sees everything rosy and happy because she's got glasses that are rose-colored, and when she takes off the glasses, she sees life differently. And it's a great old classic short story, but I like to have those rose-colored glasses on because it helps my perception, which then helps my perspective and helps me persevere. Triple P.
And it's all our perception and how we see the world. I have a Facebook friend who appeared to always see the next. Let me give a better example. I have a friend who I spoke to yesterday because I wanted to get to my car and she couldn't help, but doesn't matter. But she said, oh, you're in a hotel. How are you going to eat? And I said, well, it looks like I'm going to have to order in quite often because I don't have a kitchenette. And she said, well, you should go back to the insurance company and tell them to find you a hotel with a kitchen. I said, well, I also need my pets here. I also wanted to be close if I want to get back. And for everything, she had something wrong with it. And I was thinking, why in the world did I call her? I did not need to hear that. And I'm hearing that a lot now because I'm talking to people who are near me, and that's how they think. And I forgot about it in a way because I've been dealing with people who think differently. And it's something that we all need to learn. If we're going to change our mindset and how we think and how we're going to persevere, we may need to make some distance between the old friends and the new friends. And the more you make that distance, you'll see the mind is able to change. It doesn't change when we're still stuck with the people who say, you can't do a show on YouTube and make money. You can't do what you're doing. And I'm like, why not? But it's how we think and how we look at the world. And I think I'm at 2 minutes, so someone else, please.
Yes, I wanted to take up from here because Carla, you mentioned, and Jeanne, you also, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And network is critical. A network, a support group, because, when we speak of perseverance in isolation, that visual is very much, idealistic. A lot of people who are able to persevere is because they have a supportive family structure, or they have a very good network of 2 or 3 very close friends who will pick you up when you fall, will encourage you, will give you feedback, and would look out for you, would look out for the best for you. As opposed to pull you down, they'll be encouraging you to go up. And Mirza, that there are so many people in society who would love to see you fail and fall, and would do their utmost to relish in that. Whereas I think, as Carla, you rightly mentioned, pick your friends carefully and keep yourself in good company, because you become the company you keep.
Right.
And I think that is vital. Relationships, network, support group, interaction, stimulation, very, very necessary in order to persevere.
And it's sometimes difficult to do that depending on the people you have around you. I have a lot of people, I know that they care about me here, but they don't realize the vision. They don't realize that there is more. I had a friend pick me up and tell me, your house is in a mess. You are in a mess in certain ways. And I'm like, yeah, but I have other things that are happening right now that are good. Should I focus on what is negative, or should I focus on what is good? And it was my ability to focus on what was good last night that allowed me to talk to the board without yelling at them, because I really wanted to strangle the building management people, but I didn't. I kind of, for some reason, and I don't know how I did it, I kept myself cool. But it's part of the whole movement to the change that needs to happen in the world. Okay, 2 minutes.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that we've been learning in real time is the effects of perception. And, on the world stage, when we look at the news, it depends on what news you're looking at to know what story you're going to believe. And that's, I believe, a bit dangerous. but we have to become smarter so that we can see and understand where the real truth is. And that goes back to a very, very basic tenet that there's your truth, there's their truth, and somewhere in the middle is the truth. And, you know, it's unfortunate that through social media and other media, we're seeing how information can be colored. You know, I don't want to alienate anybody, so I'm trying to be very careful how I say this, but you can look at how somebody tells you the news story, and you know where they're getting their sustenance, if you will, because they're changing the story by how they pick the facts. And we do this every day. We get to pick the facts every day. Am I going to have a good day? Am I going to not have a not so good day? It's how you interpret what's going on. And when you truly want to persevere, that's when it's critical to get up higher, so that you're looking at the facts, not from that emotional level, not from the I can bend it my way level, but from the, oh, this is what's really going on. So let me do this to get out of, you know, to move. I need to make a left turn instead of a right turn. If I make a right turn, I'm going into the highway and it is backed up forever, you know, but I want to make the left turn because I'm going to take the alternative route, you know, but that you need to have a bigger picture view. Cameron,
Yes.
it's very rare that you can stick your hand up and go and tell me. So I want to appreciate that.
Well, I'm learning from you, Jeanne. A thought came to my mind when you said their truth, my truths, and the truths. I'm reminded of Stephen Covey and his model of the circle of influence and the circle of concern. In the circle of concern, there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of spin doctoring, there's a lot of wooing one group against the other and stuff like that in the circle of concern, and it worries us. But then there is also the circle of influence where I can personally make a difference. Am I being honest to myself and to my stakeholders, for example? I mean, fine, there are people out there that are charlatans as well as great guys. And perception and the noise out there can often confuse us. But that happens when we get too overburdened. And I mean, like, for example, right now, as we speak, we know that Ukraine is under attack. We know that. Now, there's hundreds of stories going around as to what is causing it and what is the likely outcome of it. The fact of the matter is there's nothing I can do about it. It concerns me, but I should always be focused on what I can do to better my life and the lives of those who are in my immediate circle. When we start taking responsibility for that, then I feel that at our own level, the controllables come into play and our lives become better. And of course, if something is going to happen, it's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. Storm will hit you, a war will hit us, but there's nothing we can do about that. What we can do about is to stop fretting and get on with what we can do. And perseverance is about areas where you have control and you do have influence and you can make a difference. So I think that focus is critical. And instead of getting drowned in this mega world of distortion and magic that we keep seeing. I mean, this is my view. So I've stopped watching television. I would advise everyone to do that. And even social media. I mean, use it only for your own communication requirements and stop stalking others.
I understand and I agree. And I just another example of what you just said, Kamran. Way back when I was young and impressionable, actually it was about the 2008, 2009 timeframe when the economy was taking a huge slide down into Nowheresville. I was in a conference with a bunch of entrepreneurs, and they were all talking about this fear that they had. They're going to, I want to start a business, but look at what's going on in the world. And, by the time I'd listened to about 30 minutes of it, I'm thinking, what the heck am I? And I remember, and this is one of those moments where I don't know where the words came. So it had to come from something higher than me. But I was called on to make a comment, and I said, I choose not to be fearful. because that's what's causing everybody to stop. You know, what you're talking about, yeah, prices are going up, stocks are being messed up. But for us, we need to take a step forward and do whatever it is. And, you know, marketing 101, you do all of your real push in the down times. You know, so if we let fear stop us, we're never going to get moving forward. And I remember that because that was one of those moments that I call upon in my coaching a lot, because that changed my perspective in the moment, my perception in the moment. And I know several of the people that were in the audience gave me feedback that it changed how they were looking at things. We can change what's ill of influence. And when we can take ownership of that, we actually change the world because we call it the ripple effect. I tell two friends, they tell two friends, and so on and so on. And it goes out exponentially. Yes. So we can change. It might be a sliver of a change, but it's a change.
Yeah. And as Mirza mentioned, it compounds over time. Absolutely. So 1% change every day in a 10-year time frame would be a huge
exponential.
Shift. Exponential.
Yeah. I'm gonna add to that point. You know, in these days, Mr. Kamran was saying, and so were you, Jeanne. These days we are drowning in information, right? We are drowning in so much information, like social media, this, that, the other, and we must go on a news diet. We are drowning in information, but we are lacking in wisdom. There's no freaking AI or an app or network sensors, advanced robotics, artificial intelligence, blockchain, 3D printing, augmented reality. Replace somebody's own human experience that by overcoming the challenges, by facing problems. World biggest problems are world biggest business opportunities. I always say, you solve problems for millions, you become millionaire. You solve problems for billions, you become billionaire. And there are people that we hang around with. We are the sum total of an average of 5 people that we hang around with. You hang around with 5 bunch of broke people. Likelihood of it is you're the 6th one, right? So your vibe will attract your tribe. Your feelings will determine your dealing. Your emotions will determine your life's motions, energy in motion. So pick up the right crowd that create a conducive, nurturing environment and foster the growth for you to, you know, chase the future impossible version of you. Because there are people who are battery chargers and there are people who are battery drainers, right? At the end of the day. So going back to the circle of influence and circle of concern, within your circle of influence, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Take extreme ownership, accountability, and personal responsibility with your life. What goes in your mind reflects in your life. I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur, but people don't have, I coach and mentor many companies, right, on the side. But people don't have business problems. They have a personal problem that reflects into business, right? So if one area of your life is bleeding, every other aspect of your life, facet of your life is going to be impacted. So choose the right crowd that is there. Birds of feather will flock together. I mean, eagle will fly high, but you'll eventually you'll find a safe, non-judgment place for you to be the best version of yourself, to live your life to the fullest human possible potential, to be all you can be, to, you know, never give up on the future impossible version of yourself. That's the perseverance
And Carla, this is our masterclass in how to improve your perspective, perception, and perseverance.
Yes. And Mirza, we have a lot to thank because he's come with so much energy. My God, I mean, you know, I feel like I'm an old hat.
Thank you,
right
now. I appreciate it.
With that, it's the perception, back to perception. But we can change that this moment just by becoming aware that we are putting our own selves down. If we say, oh, I don't have it right now, that may be the case. You may not have it right this moment. But at the same time, if you believe that you really deserve it, and you deserve to be treated correctly, and you deserve to be moved forward, then that changes your perspective and changes how you see the world. And how you see the world is how you will persevere amongst all the things that happen. life's not always going to be easy. There's going to be everything that comes up. And depending on how we see what's coming up, we can see it as an opportunity to become better, or we can see it as, oh no, another challenge. What do you prefer to see? I prefer the opportunity, but I admit I don't always see it as an opportunity. Kamran?
Yes, I would. Now that we are approaching 29 in Pakistan, and I suppose 12:29 in New York. Yeah. So I would like to suggest that there is a book called Atomic Habits. I would recommend that, highly recommend that. And it underpins perseverance in the most beautiful way. I was just trying to look for the author's name, and it is by, oh God, I mean, I have the title of the book. I was listening to the summary on YouTube.
I have an idea. Yeah. Could you please put that in the chat on YouTube?
Yes, I'll do that.
And people will have it that way.
I'll do that. So that was my 2 bits, contribution for concluding this session, because we need to be going. At least I need to be going.
I know. I heard it out and clear. Because the further we get away from it, and the less that we stay in that moment of, oh my God, what am I going to do to get out of it, the quicker we're going to move. Having said that, we will be back on Tuesday. I am in a stable hotel environment now. And we will have another edition of MindPlore. What will the topic be? I have no idea yet, nor do I know of the panel, except that I know Jeanne will be here. Jeanne, am I forgetting anything?
Well, two things. One is that we do have a YouTube channel in MindPlore. All of the MindPlore episodes are there. It's YouTube Gigglefest University. Please go view some of the videos, like them, comment on them, share them. That helps us build our audience, and we would appreciate your support. The second is that Carla has a page on Patreon. It's Giggle Lady, and anyone who wants to support the work that Carla's doing with the interviews that she does with the Speaking English show and with MindPlore, that would be greatly appreciated. And she has an ongoing raffle. So every month, people who have donated $5 or more per month, their names are put into the raffle, and the prize is a half-hour session one-on-one with Carla online, which is a very valuable session. And please consider supporting the work that Carla's doing.
Thank you. And with that, because I know Kamran will get